everywhere. All right, so we're going to go here and say record. All right, the subject of the live stream today and also the recording for others is the footprint without a foundation. Of course, Lucy is one of the biggest finds of the atheist complex, with the secular materialist understanding of the world, their worldview, and what that means. So here I want to go over some of the things that one is contradictory, other things are what they have found. I will show, hopefully to some extent, they are making a huge leap into, let's say, foundations, information, ways of interpreting this information without the actual steps. It's a big leap. What they want you to believe in evolution and abiogenesis is that they have the evidence that either you're too uneducated or too dumb to realize how smart they are. So that is laying the foundation for this. This is called the footprint without a foundation. And it's based on a recent discovery of another foot that they say belonged to some creature that either parallel with Lucy or came before. So it's throwing them all in a little tizzy. So that's what we're going for. That's what we're going at. What you will find and what is true is that the information they have is on species that are chronological. God started from the dirt and he built up microbes and fungi all the way up to man. Man comes in the image of God, therefore we're this higher apex of creation. They don't want to hear that. They believe that they can take nature and show how microbes, molecules became man. And we are on our quest to disprove that fantasy. They have imagination, we have faith. And their imagination is all over the place, but we are here to make a challenge. We're going to challenge them. So let's get started. The footprint without foundation. Now, I should have had some music going on, but oh well. Let's go. All right. The story they tell and the evidence they lack. Let's start with that. All right. As I read their information, and I go in and I read it. If you read just a scientific magazine, not a journal, you read the magazine, it's going to be sensationalized. It's going to be blown out of proportion. Because one, there generally are not scientists writing the information. There are those that follow scientists, those that, their career, their beliefs, their life is built on what's coming next. And they need to grease the wheel of the ad campaigns. They need ad revenue to run the magazine, so they need to outperform this magazine. Also, they want to be in the running for this year's or next year's award ceremonies, to be mentioned at least, this great writer, this great breakthrough, or to get on their own podcast and it's clickbait what they're doing. So as I read the article about the fossilized foot and the claims built around it, the story was colorful. Saying hi to different folks. The story was close. The language was confident. The certainty was loud, but the facts were very, very thin. The writer treated a set of bones and teeth as if they speak with a clarity, with a voice about our human origin. They do not, and we must make that plain and clear. Just over here, just a little bit, give you a better view, hopefully. All right. There is no chain of observation. There is no repeatable experiment. There is no live demonstration of any change from one kind, one species, a creature into another. But they will tell you the evidence is there. So, as an investigator, they say the evidence is there. The evidence, thank you for the love. They say the evidence is there. They say we just need to look for it. So we're going to look for it. We're going to investigate the situation. I'm coming from my strengths. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a physicist. I'm a PhD with public policy administration with a history of 30-some years of investigating crime and other activity. So what I'm coming at you at, I'm going to investigate it from my standpoint of view using the scientific method that they say they follow, but they will show you they do not follow because they will jump from one conclusion to another with all these assumptions. So again, there's no live demonstration of any change from one kind of an animal, one species, into another. There's only an interpretation that's shaped by a evolutionary worldview. They have a lens. It's like you coming to me and saying, and we all do this because we're human and we are programmed in certain ways, and it's easier. We fall into a mode. Some people wake up, they get coffee. Some people wake up, they get tea. It's a set process to make you feel comfortable. You throw a person out of their groove. Same thing with fighters. Same thing with football players. If we share the same locker room or whatever, you don't like me, we're going to be opponents out there. But if I can throw you off your groove, like bodybuilders used to hide one another's towel. One would have a favorite towel. He had to have that towel. And another bodybuilder would come and take away hide the towel just to get it into his head. So that sort of thing. So they come at us with a certain worldview, a certain lens. Say, you look at something and you're only going to look at it as a Democrat. You look at something and you're only going to look at it as a Republican. You have a certain lens. But if you're going to look at it and say, okay, I'm going to take my lens, which is much intelligence and information that I can acquire, and say, this Republican is voting Democrat. This Democrat is voting Republican. And you find out they might just have a label. Same thing with science. Different ones have different labels, and their label, if they're not an atheist, I say they're captured by the atheist mindset. All right. There's no God, we can't prove it. But I say there's evidence in the world, and we'll get to that, not in this video, but ones to come. The writer of the article about Lucy and the new foot they found has no proof. They have a narrative that they have crafted to push to you. We like things to be, just like to say, the same foundation for why people like conspiracy theories is the same foundation why people like evolution and abiogenesis. It's packaged. It's written well. You have high intelligent people pushing a product. The product proclaims they know something that they cannot prove. But to go against them, they will shame you. They will call you different names. They will shadow ban you, different things like that that's still done to those that come against the wholesale narrative of abiogenesis and evolution. Now, while bones alone cannot prove whether the creature was connecting, thanks for the love, was connected to this creature or to that creature. The bones, and you look at some of the skeletons, they don't reflect how the muscle and fat fit on the skeleton, so you can come up with some creatures like, the pig, man, and all that kind of stuff. So that is also to be considered. You don't have to take my word for it. What I'm asking you to do is to look at things with a critical eye. Apply critical thinking to every process, to everybody. It takes time, it takes work, but I'm sorry, that's how life really is. You really have to put in effort to get a good product out. Easy bake ovens and this highly processed food that you put in a microwave and poof, it comes out. It comes with a cost, a health cost, a mental cost, a life cost. But you don't see that now. You like the availability. And that is what they're feeding us now with evolution and abiogenesis, is a pre-packaged junk food sample that people are just eating up. And as I go on TikTok, as I go on YouTube, and I correspond back and forth, respond to different comments, you can see that being said and done, because they are repackaged. They're taking the package that they got from high school or grade school, and they're regurgitating it, have no clue. Just read a book. If you don't want to know, just read a book. The book is produced by those who are writing the narrative with that lens, that magic of abiogenesis works. All right. Again, a fossil foot cannot describe its own past. A fossil jaw cannot report its own family tree. The scientists fit the bones into a theory, a story, a narrative they already believe. They assume evolution. They assume abiogenesis. They do not test evolution. It's in the past. They describe traits like curved toes or tooth shapes, then give those descriptions the weight of proof. They present this as evidence that new species have formed. It's a layered creation, not a layered evolution. I did not meant to sit in the end of that. All right. Then they give those descriptions the weight of proof. They present this as evidence that new species have formed, but bones do not show transitions. Bones show structure. The rest is guesswork. Once you get that in your mind, understanding, they are guessing. And they call themselves educated guessers, but it's foolish to follow them without being educated yourself, not relying on them. When you go to the doctor, you got to rely on a doctor for a certain amount. You're not a doctor. You ain't been 10, 12 years or been doing it for 20 years, and they still, because I will go to another doctor, and the other doctor will say, that was stupid. Why did he tell you to do that? Why did she say that? Wait a minute. It can't be that far off. Are you kidding me? That far off? Or you go to a regular generalist, like some of these writers of these stories, they're generalists. They don't specify in a certain field. They're not the authority on the field, but they're writing about the authority as if they know what that person was actually saying. Because the person, to get through the peer review, going to have to be a little vague on some things too. It had to be specific on some things, but you got to be a little vague, because he know that it might go up before Dr. Jones, and Dr. Jones has this view of the same evidence. So it got to be vague enough to get through the peer review. All right. The rest is guesswork. Nothing in the report shows a step-by-step process by which one creature becomes another. Nothing shows a mechanism for evolution. Well, they say, well, they're not doing bacteria and mold. That is within a kind. That is within a creature species. That is not going from tadpole to whale and whale to man, all this nonsense that they got. We went from the ocean or the sea, freshwater, or was it saltwater, to land, switched up like, hey, the whale said, well, wait a minute. I'd rather be out back in the ocean where I came from in the first beginning. And he said, well, it's all about time. The way our minds are so polluted with abiogenesis and evolution is amazing. The stories that we are taking in as proof. All right. Again, nothing in the report shows a step-by-step process in which the creature becomes another. Nothing shows a mechanism. Nothing shows that new genetic information arose through natural processes. There is no observed change. There is no living population to study. There is no experiment to repeat. The claim rests on speculation. That is what you're getting, and that is what you're regurgitating to your children, teachers, to their students, and everyone else. Unproven, but highly imagined steps. All right. How scientific language masks uncertainty. All right. They're not going to come out and say, well, we're just guessing right here. It's not rocket science what they're doing. This is not hard science. This is assumption upon assumption, bordered on speculation to the 10th degree. All right. So the writer, when it was writing about Lucy and the new foot that from another creature that could be parallel, could be before, could be after. The writer uses phrases like live alongside Lucy. They don't know that for a fact. They're assuming. Look for the way they write, and you'll pick up what they're assuming or what they're not saying. It says the writer uses phrases like live alongside Lucy, belong to a human relative, and shared an ancestor. That's their assumption. No proof, just bones. No DNA, just bones. Each phrase assumes what they should be proving. They speak as if they watched these creatures walk and eat. No one did. The bones cannot record behaviors. The enamel cannot reveal social life or lifestyle, group settings. Yet the report assigns motives and habits to creatures that no one has ever seen alive. But they got you to get you to buy into it, because again, they're there to sell a magazine, a news article. They are there to win a prize also. You write some of the articles, you promote this, and if it gets promoted, the scientists will step back and let it ride. They didn't say this. It's not my fault they wrote this. They did the interview, and of course, and many of that's true, because a science reporter, would do an interview, and he'd chop up the words the way he wants them to sound or go through. Thanks for the love. So the scientists can be right, but they write within their own kingdom, so that one, it could be behind a paywall. Two, they're not going to lower themselves to speak to us about what you have to go to them and read their articles. They don't get paid to come to us and talk. Why leave there and trying to explain the the system of cells at the at we say the atoms layer, at the components. Why would they do that? In that fact, they would lower themselves, from their cathedrals. I think of them no more than I think of priests. They have they have a gospel to present, and they do it well for the most part. And then they fight amongst themselves, like the Vatican. And sometimes someone get pushed to the top because someone got to go out there and be the speaker. I'm above that. Let Dr. Joseph over there do it, so to speak. All right. Again, the writer hides the lack of evidence behind confident words. They use terms like experiments in bipedality, or several ways of walking. Put it that way. The word experiment gives the illusion of control and observation, but there is no experiment. Creatures are dead. There is no test that can be taken. There is no controlled environment. These phrases serve the theory. They do not serve the truth. They're not even going after the truth. They're going after evidence. They're not going after proof. Proof is, and their wording is pretty much impossible. Where they're going to give enough evidence that this way it looks, and that's fine. You're working out a problem. This stacks up 2 out of 3 times. Okay, that's the best we got to go with. Same thing in a military action. Same thing. You fly an aircraft, and you learn different ways. The weather is not going to be the same every day. So 2 times out of 3, this is generally what's going to be like. And you go with that. I have no problem with that. My problem is they are putting it forth because of funding from the federal government, and they have control. They are the gatekeepers of so-called knowledge, and also they say, well, if you want to go against us, write a paper. Yet the paper, the article, the journal is behind a wall. And if you do not, like a secret society, know the formal handshake, the tap, the dap, the secret word, to say it the way they want to say it, you are not let in. You can't get a peer-reviewed article because they don't like the way you challenging their assumptions. Also, the claims contradict each other. The theory shapes the conclusion, not the other way around. So, they look at a bone of a creature, an animal, that may or may not live with, as in their theory, and they are one creature moved up to the next and moved up to the next for a billion years. But we're going to go in a little bit, the probability. You don't have enough time with mutation, because God is good. You don't have enough time with mutation to get to where we was a molecule and now that we are mankind. You don't have enough time. The mutation rate and the actual effect of mutations doesn't go from mutate into something. How you don't go from a lizard leg to a human arm. When you're mutating, you're limiting or removing data information. You need more precise, specific information to grow a human eye into that of a lizard. You're losing information. You're not gaining information. But they are so anti-God, and they are so profound in their cathedrals of knowledge that they will not succumb to truth. Right? The post that was about the foot that that puts into question Lucy. The post first claims that Lucy was fully bipedal, then argues the opposite by pointing to a foot with curved, grasping toes. They claim the new fossil represents a new species, then admit the evidence is circumstantial. They got to get you to buy the product, but they got to also, because they know some of us are going to go and look. They claim parallel species once walked the land and acknowledge that experts disagree because nothing is specific about the information. This is not solid ground. This is a shifting sand. They say one thing, you grab a headline, and you read more into it, like, huh? You walk away more confused than you are having knowledge. When even the experts cannot agree on the bone's basic identity, there is no proof. There's only debate, and debate is not evidence, but they got to push the magazine. They got to push this out. They say, hey, we found bacteria on Mars. Hey, we found bacteria on a comet, an asteroid. Or, hey, we found bacteria, 2-3 miles, 6 miles, whatever it is, below the Antarctic ice. Not telling you that drill bit that was going down could have been pushing bacteria, mold, mildew into that area. It's not as grandiose as and precise as they say. That's what I'm saying. All right. So the theory shapes the conclusion, not the other way around. Control through narrative, not evidence. They have a narrative. They know where they want to go. Anything that shows up that's out, it's an anomaly. Let's move that to the side. Let's not talk about that right now. The entire argument rests on assumptions that evolution is true. Once that assumption is in place, every bone becomes a relative, every tooth becomes a clue, every new fossil becomes a missing link. The writer never questions the theory. They assume the conclusion and force the evidence to fit it. All right. I say I'm doing an investigation, and I believe Joe took out his brother. Now, it's really his cousin, Jonathan, did it. But I've been after Joe for years, and I got a grudge against Joe. So I'm going after it, pushing. Jonathan can be over there trying to confess. I'm pushing him to the side. The evidence is there, but I have a conclusion. The same thing with abiogenesis and evolution. They have a mindset, they have a lens, they have a purpose, and they are on that purpose. And the evidence of a bigger fingerprint on this scale will not deter them from getting to their destination, which will lead them to nowhere. The writer of this article never questions the theory. They assume the conclusion and force the evidence to fit it. This is not the scientific method. The scientific method demands observation, testing, and repeatable results. Evolutionary anthropology cannot offer any of these. The researcher looks at a fossil, imagines a scenario, and declares it meaningful. That is not proof. That is an interpretation. And that is my point I want to bring out. All right, control through narrative, not evidence. I think I already did that one. Oh, maybe not. Let me double check my notes. The focus is not about evidence, it's about control. It's about shaping the public mind. All right. It is about presenting a belief system as if it was a fact. They have a belief system. Natural, biological evolution. There's no such thing. We cannot prove there's a God. We don't care about that. We don't have to bring that in. What I'm here to show that their own policy, their own procedures destroys their own theories. That's the point where I'm coming from. Not trying to make this a religious debate. I'm making this a scientific method observation. They have made the rules, but they cannot go by the rules because the rules reveal how far off they are. All right. Again, the post about the evidence is about control. It's about shaping the public's mind. It is about presenting a belief system as if it was a fact. When scientists speak with certainty about events they never saw, creatures they never studied alive, and transformations they cannot demonstrate, they are not offering science, they are offering authority. They expect trust without proof. Believe me, as Fauci said, I am the science. Even though he knew that it appears, apparently, that he offered money to the Chinese and they went around the system to get in a lower level lab to create this pandemic. Doesn't seem to be direct. However, it's all about saving your own grass. You hear me? You in a wildfire, the fire is coming. You can either tell the people, yeah, I started by accident, and you say, oh, I don't know what happened. Must have been an act of God. So remember, they want to be seen as the elite, the accolades. Every man wants a pat on his back. So remember that. They are human. They are flawed. The writer of this article uses that authority to tell the reader what to believe about the past. They use long timelines and scientific vocabulary to silence questions. They present their theory as the only reasonable view. There is no other reasonable way. It had to come through nature. That is our lens. It is natural, factual statement that nothing has been proven that there's a God, therefore we are only looking at the natural way. Where does information come from? It's not a chemical or biological phenomenon. Someone had to write the template. Someone had to create the membrane for the reaction to take place. You cannot do this without the membrane. Someone had to put grass on the ground for the fungus and the bacteria, and later the animals, and then the humans to eat the animals that ate the grass. Someone had to do. There had to be a designer who was intelligent to set this motion. Where did grass come from? Is grass? Well, there's a trillion other planets. You're not being scientific now. Stay within your realm. You're speculating, you're guessing, you're creating a myth. Panspermia, multi-universe, that's it. That's not scientific. You said we had to stick within the scientific method. We're in the scientific method, but you want to come with your own panoramic view of the universe so that you don't have to admit there's something to see here. We cannot eliminate the possibility that there's a higher being created us. The writer uses authority to tell the reader what to believe about the past. They use long timelines and scientific vocabulary to silence the questions. They present their theory as the only reasonable view. That is controlled. When you strip away the tone and the jargon, you are left with a claim without proof. That's what we are here to talk about. They are naturalistic. They have claims without proof. Why do I not accept the story? Specifically, this story about the other foot, like the creature, like Lucy. I accept what I can observe. So let's play that game. They cannot see a God they don't accept. I cannot see a creature 4 billion years ago or a billion years ago. The bone does not tell me he's my ancestor or it. I accept what I can observe. I take what I can test. I accept what I can repeat. A fossil foot does not show evolution, micro or macro. It shows something that once lived and died. A jawbone does not tell a story about several species, kinds, living side by side. It tells us nothing beyond the shape and composition. The report takes shape and becomes a worldview. I reject that leap. The evidence is not there. Don't tell me you're not going to believe nothing you can see, taste, or smell, and then tell me to believe something I cannot touch, test, or repeat. Stay within your own confines. I'm going to call you out on it. What the writer wants you to think. All right. They want you to believe that human origins are a settled matter. I get it all the time. Evolution is true. Where's the evidence? Well, you got to read it. I'm not a biologist, but I read, someone said, I don't care what you think. Why are you even on here? All right, so they tell you to believe that human origins are settled matter. They want you to see every fossil as a page in a book of evolution. They want you to trust the experts and never ask how they reached their conclusion. They want you to assume their model is accurate. They want control over the story of human life and human identity. But a story is not proof, a claim is not evidence, and confidence is not science. So, with that being said, we're going to end this little show here. We hope to be back with more. We hope you like it. Please like, subscribe. Please tell me what you think of the information. I'm wrong, I'm right. My point is, if you're going to believe in something, or you hate to use the word belief, don't they? I don't believe it. It's a proven fact. No, it's not proven. It's a stated fact without proof, but it's not proven. So please like, subscribe, write me a comment. Let me know what you think. And what, if any, you would like to hear, know more about. What is it? What do you want to know? So let me know, and God bless you. Go ahead, end these couple.